This is part 2 of the indeterminate sentence law. We will be focusing on how it actually operates, especially determining the maximum term and the minimum term, which is required to be determined by the judge under this law. So note that the indeterminate sentence imposition is both applied in the crimes committed under the revised penal code and those offenses punished by special penal laws. So in order to arrive at the maximum term, you start with the prescribed penalty of the crime under the RPC. Further, the attending circumstances must be appreciated, wherein the privilege mitigating circumstance takes preference over the mitigating circumstance. So again, the privilege mitigating circumstance take preference over the mitigating circumstance, and then also appreciate aggravating circumstance. Now, in order to get the minimum term, this is the 1 degree lower to that prescribed of the revised penal code, the period of which is upon the court's discretion. So again, whatever is prescribed by the RPC, make it 1 degree lower, and that is the minimum term. And again, take note that once the minimum term is already served, the offender is now eligible to apply for parole. Now, we have mentioned that the indeterminate sentence also applies to special penal laws. So the maximum term should be such period which should not exceed the maximum fixed by law. So whenever there's a maximum period provided under the special penal law, it should not be exceeded by the maximum term. Now, for the minimum term, it should now not be less than the minimum specified by law. So for example, an offense under the special penal law is punished on its maximum period of 10 years and the minimum period is 6 years. The maximum term cannot go beyond 10 years and the minimum term cannot go below 6 years. Now, what are the rules for imposition of divisible penalties? When there is no mitigating circumstance or no aggravating circumstance, the medium period is imposed. Note that for this section, when I mention mitigating circumstance or aggravating circumstance, this refers to ordinary mitigating circumstance and generic aggravating circumstance. Again, when there is no mitigating circumstance and no aggravating circumstance, the penalty should be in its medium period. Now, when there is one mitigating circumstance and no aggravating circumstance, apply the minimum period. When there is no mitigating circumstance and there is one aggravating circumstance, apply the maximum period. Now, I introduce you to the concept of offsetting. This can be done when there is at least one mitigating circumstance or at least one aggravating circumstance. Then the effect would be, in that case, the effect would be as if there is no circumstance. Thus, the medium period should be applied. When there are two or more mitigating circumstance and there is no aggravating circumstance, the penalty 1 degree lower should be imposed. Again, whenever there are two or more mitigating circumstance and it is not attended by any aggravating circumstance, apply the 1 degree lower of such penalty.